These days, the 14th Amendment, Section 3, has become of great importance to the United States of America due unto the lawlessness, the commands of Donny Trump and the militia whom were sent on 1/6/2021 to attack the Library of Congress, Capitol Police, and Congressional members, resulting in injuries and deaths, threats of hanging by noose of various members, beginning with Vice President Pence and others. Section 1, no state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. This does not constitute lawlessness prevailing over law. The U.S. Constitution establishes law within the United States of America. Once equal justice for all. The immunity does not and should not be granted to one individual, no matter commander-in-chief, nor any other citizen, especially when any order or command deprives any person of life and freedom or property due unto their own personal cause and demands for the electoral count of the people for the people to be halted per their demands, which have proven no facts at all as to any stolen election. Section 3 begins with a lawfulness banning Trump and those aligned with him, especially those who were presiding behind the official White House seal of approval on 1/6/2021. As I said, Section 3 begins within the law to protect the law against the lawlessness, the militia, the individuals, the so-called patriots, all those Trump supporters who followed and obeyed the command to attack Congress, leading to injuries and deaths on both sides of the U.S. government and within the civilian. That Section 3 begins with law, supporting the law of the U.S. Constitution. The final sentence, but Congress may, by vote of 2/3 of each House, remove such disabilities. The only disability at this point within Congress is the incompetence. That same incompetence has spread to Secretaries of State, Supreme Court judges within the states, governors, media, and civilians. And the fraudulent, deceptive, lying, deceiving Donny Trump and his lawyers have already filed that fraudulent lawsuit to be heard within the U.S. Supreme Court. The disability of their incompetence and their lawlessness to overcome the law. One sentence of lawlessness declaring that 2/3 of the House, each House, can overcome and prevail over the law. Even the death and the injuries of individuals. Section 5, the Congress shall have power to enforce by appropriate legislation the provisions of this article. What is the power to enforce? The power to enforce is law enforcing the power over lawlessness. The lawlessness of Trump and those on 1/6/2021 and since then. Appropriate legislation is the gathering of law, the gathering of Congress in the appropriateness to support law with law. The provisions of the article are all within accordance of supporting the law of the U.S. Constitution, with the exception of but Congress may by a vote of 2/3 of each House remove such disabilities. If an independent were president and 2/3 of congressional members were independents, the independent president could order a direct rebellion and insurrection against Congress to halt the electoral count by death and injury of individual Americans or a militia, as was done essentially on January 6, 2021. If all or 2/3 of the congressional members were independents, they could support that lawlessness within the lawlessness of the final sentence noted within Section 3. If all were Republican and there was a Republican president, if all were Democrats and there was a Democrat president, if only 2/3 were equal to the political party of the president, then Congress, by lawlessness of 2/3 of each House, could remove the disabilities of every law, so they would speak in lies, deceptions, and deceits. The disability is nothing more than the lies, the deceptions, and the deceit and the ignorance of both congressional members, judges, and even Americans, down to the very individuals. Section 5 reiterates power to enforce law by appropriate legislation of law. Provisions of this article within the law. One sentence is what they are trying to lie and deceive, and have been doing so, and they're presenting their lies, deceits, and deceptions and their fraudulent claims all the way in the Supreme Court. And no one wants to stand in truth who supports Trump's lies. That should be in clarity enough as to why the U.S. Constitution and how the 14th Amendment, Section 3, Section 5, going all the way back up to Section 1, declares that Trump is ineligible by law, the U.S. constitutional law. Law prevailing over the lawlessness, the lies, the deceptions, the deceits of everything Trump ideology. It's irrelevant at this time, I suppose, if I add my suggestion for the 14th Amendment, Section 6, to which I originally thought of being Section 4 before I knew Section 4 and 5 existed. There is no question as to if Trump should be banned from every ballot, from every political office, and as to if has been lying and deceiving and running a fraudulent campaign, when the truth of the U.S. Constitution should speak loudly, clearly, and undeniably, definitively against that liar, Donny Trump, and all those lawyers who have been filing their fraudulence on his behalf.